welcome to the Inclusive Leaders podcast. This is the show where I speak with the most inspirational and thought-provoking leaders of today and unearth their unique stories of diversity and inclusion to help inspire, educate, and motivate others to make the world a better place. Today, I am delighted to be joined by the fabulous Lily Evans. Lily is the Diversity Inclusion Belonging Advisor for the global organisation ISS Facility Services. She spends much of her days dedicated to creating an environment which really fosters diversity, inclusion initiatives, allowing every individual to feel valued and to be able to thrive. Her background is psychology. She's very proud to marry academic understanding with real-world HR practices. Welcome to the show, Lily.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Lily, before we get into some of the really interesting projects that you're kicking off at the moment within ISS, it would be great if you told us a little bit about the work that you've done, how you ended up getting into this space, which of course is going through a lot of interesting change at the moment. Hence, we need more individuals like you flying the flags to make great sustainable change.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's quite a funny story actually. So I started at ISS in 2022. So coming up for 3 years soon. And I started in generalist HR. So when you kind of mentioned there, real world HR practices, that's kind of where I come from, is the kind of, generalist HR space. And I actually have always been very passionate about D&I. So kind of, through school, I was always part of boards and things like that in sort of my college years. And we were always constantly talking about, diversity and inclusion and how we can, increase that throughout the college. So I've had a little bit of experience, kind of growing up in this space. So I've always had the interest there. And, the vision for me was that I would be able to get an opportunity to work in that space long term, career wise. But I think when I started, from college looking for jobs and things like that, it wasn't really accessible. It wasn't like, there was loads of diversity and inclusion kind of roles available. So it was kind of one of them where I was always hoping I would be able to fall into it, but it just wasn't quite there. So I had a little bit of experience at ISS in generalist HR, and then very thankfully got the opportunity to move into D&I as a coordinator in 2023. So quite quickly, which was amazing. And yeah, I started working in 2023 in D&I as a coordinator, reporting to our head of D&I in the UK and Ireland at ISS. And then really amazingly got the opportunity to lead the D&I agenda locally in the UK and Ireland last May. So it'll be a year this month that I've sort of been leading D&I and leading an agenda and leading a strategy. So I'm still, very new to the space and very new to the role, but it's very fast paced. So there's a lot that ISS have done in the past 12 months and a lot that I'd love to share today. So yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
Thanks so much for sharing, Lily. And I think what's really valuable about the conversation that we're about to have and some of what you've said that is actually diversity, equity, inclusion, EDI, whichever anagram we choose to call this, is it's
Mhm.
been something that's been vastly evolving over the years. And when we look
Absolutely.
at careers, and I look back at, being at school and being in the kind of the careers section of the library and things like this,
Yeah.
it's how has it evolved, and is it one of those areas that was, shaped and projected as DEI? Probably not. And so I think the path into working within this space, working within culture, has been quite varied. And you've highlighted the fact that HR is one of those routes into the area. It's
Yeah.
also something that those, especially from some of our younger generations, are incredibly passionate about. With
Mhm.
five, six generations in the workplace, working for socially impactful organizations within inclusive organizations is a career path that people really want to follow.
Mhm.
And to some of the points that you've made, it was so grateful I then got the opportunity because we aren't
Yeah,
necessarily highlighting how individuals can take those steps to get on the career journey to become a chief culture
absolutely.
officer or inclusion officer or whatever that might
Mhm.
be. And then finally, really interesting that you mentioned there the regional strategy that you're putting into, because that is so important given everything we've seen geopolitically of late and how important it is for us to really shape and nuance strategies as per country and region. Because as we've seen, there is a lot of change going
Yeah,
on, and legislation and headlines, they all have their impacts in different areas. So thank you for sharing, Lily. So as
of
we move
course.
on, tell me about some of these initiatives that you are spearheading at the moment.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, so a really big part of our strategy this year is around career development and sort of talent acceleration. And we're one of our priorities is to make sure that we provide career development opportunities to everyone and that they are equal across the board, because we know that at the moment they aren't. And it's the whole gender balance piece, gender balance across leadership and things like that. And we're really invested in making sure that that is the case at ISS, and that we're continuing that journey to become equal in our career development opportunities. So something that we are focusing on this year is apprenticeships. And we have launched one apprenticeship recently called the Women in Leadership Apprenticeship. And those programs are aligned with ILM levels 3, 5, and 7. And they really focus on essential leadership skills and behaviours to provide career development opportunities to our female talent. And we're really committed to making sure that we have gender balance across our leadership roles. So this, heavily aligns with our objectives in the gender balance facet. And like I said, we launched that last year, so about a year ago, and we have rolled out a couple of cohorts, and they have been very successful, and we have had 8 delegates have since been promoted that have been on the apprenticeship. So we know that this works, and we know that we need to continue investing in the area. So something we have been looking at this year is creating the same leadership apprenticeship, but for our culture, race, and ethnicity facet. So this really focuses on another one of our objectives to increase ethnic diversity at leadership levels. So again, mirrors that apprenticeship. It's aligned with ILM levels 3 and 5. This one again focuses on essential leadership knowledge and behaviours, but for this one to increase our ethnic diversity at leadership levels. So yeah, we're really committed to making sure that we increase the representation across our whole business, and we know that apprenticeships are really important in doing this and giving all of our colleagues the equal opportunity to do so.
It's really great to hear the investment that's going in at some of those grassroots levels,
Mm-hmm.
because that is our leadership of the future, ultimately.
Absolutely.
And so when we're looking at things like apprenticeships and we're looking at things like almost early intervention, actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great foundation, to your point, Lily, as to how we can really lay some of this groundwork for the future as a talent feeder to get to those more senior managerial levels. And
Mm-hmm.
that coupled with the work that ISS do around representation, as you say, which is really, really important because,
Mm-hmm.
as we all know, if we don't see ourselves or hear those who emulate ourselves in some kind of way, it's often quite difficult,
Mm-hmm.
especially for early days leaders to believe that they might be able to get to that place in leadership. But having the top down and bottoms up approach
Mm-hmm.
is very valuable. So brilliant that you're
Absolutely.
looking at these career
Yeah. Yeah.
acceleration opportunities.
And I think for ISS, our ambition is to be the leading frontline employer. So it's super important that we invest in our frontline placemakers, and that I think, as part of this initiative, we have really focused on that level 3, that sort of team leader level, supervisor level, to give them those opportunities. It's so important that we are equal across the board. So yeah, I absolutely agree.
And for those who are listening in who don't know about the work that ISS does, it's a lot around facilities. And so, Lily, there, when you're talking about frontline, these are
Yes.
individuals that are literally on the front line within big corporate brands that we know. Often,
Yeah,
if you're going, out on a personal note with family into restaurants, or if you're going into corporate offices,
absolutely.
ISS people are there dealing with everyone from general public right the way through
Mm.
to, those in kind of office spaces. And so having that clear representation on the front line is very, very important because that
So
is your
important.
customer base as well, right?
Yes, that's what I was just going to say. Yeah, our customer facing sort of level. It's so important to have that investment there.
Lily, I know that you're working on some really exciting accessibility projects at the moment. And given a few of the headlines that we should take note of, such as disabled people being over 50% more likely to face digital access barriers than non-disabled individuals, and the fact that around 15 to 16% of the global population lives with some form of disability, interventions like this are even more important for global organizations such as yours.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about some of the projects that you're working on.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. I absolutely agree that this is such a massive, this affects such a massive amount of our population. So when we sort of take those statistics and transfer them into our workplace, this is such a massive amount of our workforce that this will impact. So making sure that our digital tools are accessible for these placemakers is so important to making sure that our workplace is inclusive. So yeah, so we're focusing on a very exciting initiative this year, which is an accessibility toolbar. So this will be on our ISS websites, our careers site. So when people come onto the ISS site and are looking for vacancies, potentially are looking for jobs with us, we're really showcasing that we are inclusive and that we are investing in being accessible from the get-go, from the first user experience when they click onto our website. We're showcasing that straight away. So this is so important. It will affect and impact so many people. And we're really focusing here on making sure that this toolbar provides our users that flexibility to customize their interaction with our site. So there's so many tools that this accessibility toolbar offers, so many that I've not even seen before, changing colors, changing font size, changing text. All of that will really help, and specifically also help, like you mentioned, the statistic around neurodiversity. That's a priority for us these past couple of years, is really focusing on that neurodiverse population in our workforce. So yeah, this will heavily benefit that part of our workforce. So we're really excited to implement that very soon.
So that sounds brilliant and a really great case study for other organizations to be learning from, and something simple yet evolutionary because it's something that you can adapt, you can amend. Certainly, as a neurodiverse individual, and that would be something I would really love to see on organizations' websites.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me a little bit. I know you can't necessarily share everything before the big reveal, but
Yeah.
you talked earlier about a sunflower initiative, which got me very intrigued.
Absolutely, yeah. So we are quite recently partnered with the Hidden Disability Sunflower Scheme, and for anyone who doesn't know, they are quite a wide scheme. But for anyone who doesn't know, they are a simple tool for someone to voluntarily share that they have potentially a disability or a condition that may not be immediately apparent. So that's sort of the showcasing of the sunflower scheme. You actually see it on my lanyard today. I've got a lanyard with the sunflower saying I support the sunflower. But that wearing something like this or a sunflower badge is also some of the things they offer. Just show that they might need a little bit of extra time or understanding. And these are particularly really common when we're in workplaces or public transport or in shops and that kind of thing. So you probably see this a lot in sort of airports and things like that. And it just demonstrates that that person might just need a little bit more understanding that might not necessarily be demonstrated straight away from seeing the person. So it's a really important initiative. And as a company, we are a corporate member of the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower. So our membership includes access to expert training, which we are actually just rolling out. So we have our first session on the 3rd of June to make sure that all of our workforce understands the sunflower and understands how to use it to their best interest. And we will be discussing, non-visible disability topics and just really training our workforce around disability, essentially. And yeah, so a lot of us, I'm in the Stoke office today. I see probably about 5 people around me that are wearing the sunflower or wearing the I Support Sunflower. So I think it's just really important again, when we talk about inclusivity, that all of our workforce is demonstrating that they support this initiative and they support the people who may need that extra time.
Thanks for explaining that so articulately. And it is something that it's wonderfully simple, yet also very effective. And just having that little change to the lanyard makes people feel, do you know what, actually, I'm very much in a safe space here where I'm happy to explain or talk more about this, but ultimately alerts everyone to the fact that there is little extra support there needed. So that is excellent and a great engagement tool, I think, as well.
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up, Lily, I'd love to ask just a couple of last questions around
Mhm.
what diversity, inclusion, belonging means to you personally.
Absolutely. I think for me, diversity and inclusion is very personal. I think it's about, and as ISS, we say that we strive to be the company of belonging. And I think what that means and the way that I describe this, and it like I said, it's personal, so it's very subjective what belonging means to everyone. It's different for every individual, but I think belonging, though, in the way that I describe it for me, is not about just being invited to a space. It's about knowing that you're being heard and that your voice matters in that space. So I think it's really rooted in sort of connection and that building those relationships that that you're really valued and that genuinely reflect, ISS's morals and values. So I think when we say we strive to be the company of belonging and our diversity and inclusion initiatives, and we're explaining those, I think it's making sure that we're being really authentic when we're doing so, and that we're not just saying these things, we're actually investing in them and putting the time and effort they require. So some of the initiatives I've been speaking about today, I think that shows that we're not just committed and we're not just saying we're committed, we're actually putting in the time and the work in behind the scenes to make sure that those values are really reflected across our workforce. So yeah, overall, I think diversity and inclusion is very personal, and is really about being valued no matter who you are.
That's such a fantastic answer. And going beyond the performative, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
is everything that you've been talking about and becomes even more pertinent in what is a pretty turbulent world for everything that is diversity at the moment. Belonging is something that all of us
Mm-hmm.
can feel it physically, the prickles up the back of our neck and our arms. We walk into somewhere and don't feel that we perhaps belong. And so it's a really important piece
Mm-hmm.
to every part of humanity. So thank you for that,
Of course.
Lily. And finally, a quick lightning round question. I wonder who has inspired you most throughout your career and life?
Oh, this is a good one. I would think Probably, and this is quite a cheesy one, but probably my mum. So my mum actually had a quite a long career in the corporate world, and she has always been a very open and honest feminist. So, growing up around her, I've always seen her, call out misogyny, whether that's in the workplace, whether in her personal life. And that's really taught me that it's okay to call it out, and it's okay to speak up when you think that things aren't right. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I'm in diversity and inclusion now, is that that's always been a really big part of my life growing up, is about calling out when things aren't right, and sticking up for people, and defending people, and knowing that that's okay to speak up and not be afraid to speak up. She's taught me that throughout my childhood. So I think that's and we're not naive that diversity and inclusion can be a quite turbulent world to be in. It's forever changing, it's forever evolving. It's not one clear pathway that's super easy. So I think it's kind of built her kind of openness and her feminism that she's taught me has really made me build that resilience to be in the diversity and inclusion world and really fight for equity, because she's always done that throughout my childhood. So I think she's taught me those lessons, and the reason why I feel like I can do that as well. So yeah, I would say her.
Lily, thank you so much. That's such a beautiful note to end on. And actually, it almost summarizes everything that we've been talking about today on the podcast, is this fight for equity and what is right. A
Mhm.
lot of the points you've talked about, not only within the company strategy, but also personally, are around these hidden disabilities, the capability to give more accessibility for those who don't necessarily have opportunities that are, level playing field opportunities, shall we say. I really like some of the pieces you've spoken about on the early intervention and the talent side, in the same
Mhm.
way that your mum's clearly been a big inspiration to you in the early days.
Mhm.
You and the organization are making sure that there are programs in place to really help accelerate talent, no matter what background talent comes from. The
Mhm.
pointers that you mentioned to the ILM levels, I think are really interesting, because actually it's a demonstration not only of investing in talent, but also in upward social mobility. And that's really what this is all about. This is about how we give talent the opportunity, no matter the background, that we really try and level the playing field. And we do that through the power that we have within the corporate environment. So, really,
Mhm.
really appreciate you being here today and the kind sharing of your experiences personally, but also some of the things that you're working so hard on to achieve within ISS. I think there's lots that people can learn and organizations can learn from having listened to you share today. And hopefully, this
Thank you.
inspires many others to take the journey into the world of inclusion and belonging. Yes, we know the headlines can be challenging at the moment, but you know what? What a great place to be, and what a great place to learn resilience as you have, Lily, because this
Mhm.
is it can be a tough environment sometimes, but the best way to learn often is trial, it's error, it's
Mhm.
keeping on, and actually it's such an evolutionary area that what a great opportunity to be a part of that and to really make a
Absolutely.
sustained long-term difference.
No, thank you so much for having me on, and really providing me a space and platform to talk about these things, because like you said, they're so important for so many different reasons. So I'm really glad I've been able to share what I'm working on and what ISS is investing in. So thank you, and thank you for your and all the Dials team's support, because we couldn't do it without those partnerships. So thank you.
Oh, bless you, Lily. My name is Layla Mackenzie Dallas, the founder and CEO of Dial Global. You've been listening to Lily Evans today from ISS. We'll make sure that we get all the show notes in. Please do share with anyone that you feel would benefit from the podcast, and don't hesitate to reach out if you've been affected by anything at all. We'll make sure we put all of the links in there so that you can reshare, check things out, and all the great work that Lily and ISS are doing. Visit us at www.dialglobal.org/podcast or on any of your favorite podcast channels such as Apple and Spotify. Thanks for listening and see you very soon.